The great outdoors. One of the best things about America is the great outdoors, and the best places to get outside are the national parks.
The national parks have been dubbed America's best idea because they took huge swaths of American wilderness, protected it from development, and kept it open to the public for their enjoyment. Last year, the national parks turned 100 years old, and there's no better time to get out there and experience all 59 parks. But which are the best?
I'm Alex.
I'm Marko.
And you are watching Vagabrothers, your go-to guide for travel tips, vlogs, and inspiration here on YouTube. Now there's 59 parks, so in this video we've narrowed it down to our 29 favorites, some of the most beautiful and diverse national parks in the US of A. So grab your compass, strap up your hiking boots, and get ready to get outdoors.
Wait, do they have Wi-Fi?
Probably not.
First up, Yellowstone in Wyoming. Established in 1872, Yellowstone was the first natural park in the entire world, and certainly one of the greatest national parks in the United States.
Located mostly in Wyoming, Yellowstone spans the Rocky Mountains into neighboring Idaho and Montana, combining alpine lakes and rivers with wildlife such as bears, bison, and wolves.
It also sits on top of a geothermal hotspot, making it the world's largest concentration of geysers as we say in the US, including Old Faithful. Number 2, Yosemite. Not long after Yellowstone, California's Yosemite Valley became a national park thanks to the efforts of the legendary naturalist John Muir.
You might recognize Yosemite's iconic half dome from the wallpaper of your Macintosh, but it's actually a mecca for rock climbers who believe that the 3,000-foot face of El Capitan is one of the most technical and challenging rock climbs in the world.
To learn more about the early days of rock climbing in Yosemite, watch Valley Uprising on Netflix. But even if you don't climb, you can still hike to the top of El Capitan, you just have to apply for a permit.
Yosemite is beautiful, but it does get crowded, so let's talk about some of the other national parks in California that don't get the crowds. Just 3 hours from Los Angeles and located in the southern section of the Sierra Nevada mountains, SEQUOIA National Park is a gem. It's famous for its extremely large sequoia trees, including General Sherman, over 2,000 years old, 275 feet, and 4 million pounds of hardwood. It is the largest tree on Earth.
In the far northwestern corner of the state, you have Redwood National Park. The redwoods are super cool. It is a coastal temperate rainforest, and it has the tallest tree on Earth, which was only recently discovered in 2006. It's 379 feet tall. That's 115 meters tall.
There really is something magical about the redwoods, and that may be why George Lucas chose it as the location for The Return of the Jedi, the forest moon of Endor. So if you like Ewoks, you might want to head to Redwood National Park.
Still in California, next let's go to Joshua Tree, a beautiful stretch of desert just east of Los Angeles named after its indigenous tree.
The Joshua Tree.
Ding. Joshua Tree is an easy 2-hour drive from LA, and it's super popular for camping, for rock climbing, for photography, or for going on a vision quest, if that's what you're into. A lot of people come here right after or before Coachella because that takes place just down the road, but it's a lot better in the winter when it's not that crowded, or in springtime when the Joshua Tree is blooming. Just make sure you avoid it in the summertime because it's just gonna be way too hot.
Next up, the Channel Islands National Park. For unspoiled California coast, head to the Channel Islands National Park. 5 wild and remote islands off the coast of Santa Barbara that only recently became a national park. These islands are the ancestral home of the Chumash people, and they are best explored by either hiking or kayaking. But to get there, you're gonna need to take a ferry, which leaves from Ventura and Santa Barbara.
On the other side of the US, you have the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. This is the most popular park in the United States, and that's because it's really easily accessible by car, and it's also the gateway to the Appalachian Mountains. It's over 95% forest, which means there's tons of places to camp, to hike, and if you really want to get after it, you can actually hike sections of the Appalachian Trail, which stretches 2,000 miles from Georgia in the south all the way up north to Maine.
Speaking of Maine, let's talk about ACADIA National Park. Maine's only national park is the oldest national park east of the Mississippi and is supposedly one of the best on the East Coast. It's home to Cadillac Mountain, the tallest mountain on the eastern seaboard, but it's famous for its trail system, which is the oldest trail system in any national park, and has recently restored historic carriageways that are now great for hiking and walking. Plus, it's in Maine, which means there's gonna be great craft beer and incredible seafood. While you're out there, you're gonna have to eat a lobster.
Next up, Ile Royale. In the Midwest, head to the Ile Royale in the Great Lakes. It's one of the least visited national parks in the entire country, and that's because it's a super isolated island in the middle of Lake Superior, essentially a 3 to 5 hour ferry ride from Upper Peninsula, Michigan. We have not been to this park in particular, but the Great Lakes are super beautiful, and if you want some unplugged time, this seems to us like the perfect option.
Well, let's heat things up a little bit and head to the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Now, let's just stop for a second and look at that word, Hawaii, volcanoes, both awesome. National Park.
Amazing.
Yes. Where else can you get a tan in the morning and photograph molten lava at night? There are 2 volcanoes in the park, but don't worry, Kilauea volcano is constantly erupting, so you're gonna have lots of opportunities to watch the earth literally growing an island. But do not fall in, okay?
Now, while we're outside the contiguous 48 states, let's not forget about Alaska, the last true frontier and pure, unspoiled wilderness. Denali National Park is the most popular site in Alaska, and that's for good reason. It contains Mount McKinley, which is the tallest mountain in North America at over 20,000 feet. That's over 6,200 meters. And it's also the 3rd most isolated mountain in the entire world after Mount Everest in the Himalaya and Aconcagua in the Argentinian Andes. So you know, the mountain has recently been renamed to Denali. It was named Mount McKinley by a gold prospector in the 1890s, but it's been called Denali by the indigenous Koyukon people for thousands of years. So Denali is the name of the mountain.
But even if you're not going to summit the peak, it's the perfect place to get off the grid and into the wild, which, oddly enough, is where Chris McCandless, the person from the book and movie Into the Wild, actually went into the wild and lived in that abandoned school bus until his untimely death in 1992. The bus is still there for those of you who are willing to trek in.
Alaska's other major national park, Glacier Bay, is on the coast. 3.3 million acres of unspoiled glaciers, mountains, temperate rainforests, and deep fjords. It's part of Alaska's Inside Passage, and it's one of the last places where you can actually see a tidewater glacier. That's a glacier that goes all the way down the tide line, and sadly, in the era of global warming, they're becoming less and less common.
If you're planning on visiting Glacier Bay National Park, check out the nearby town of Gustavus. It's a beautiful little fishing town with tons of great bed and breakfasts, not to mention some of the best halibut and salmon fishing in Alaska. Another great spot to see glaciers is Glacier National Park in Montana. It's the only national park that spans 2 countries. It's connected to the Waterton Lakes National Park on the other side in Canada. These 2 parks were joined together to create the International Peace Park, founded in honor of international peace building.
Creation of the park is actually kind of funny because it was actually built by this railroad magnate. He built a hotel in the national park, connected the railroad, and then petitioned for the park to become a national park. And there's actually a ferry that goes to Canada because in the days of Prohibition, you couldn't drink in the US, but you could drink in Canada, Waterton Lakes National Park. Point is, if you want to see glaciers, you shouldn't wait because there's 25 remaining of the original 150 that there were in the 1800s, and it's estimated that by 2030, all those glaciers will disappear.
Across the country, Florida's Everglades National Park is perhaps the most geographically distinct park on our list. This 1.5 million acre wetlands is made up of mangrove, and it basically consists of the entire bottom tip of the Florida peninsula. There's tons of wildlife from manatees to turtles and alligators, which means you probably shouldn't go swimming, but it's perfect for an airboat tour, and supposedly the fishing's not bad either.
Another distinctive park is the Badlands, named for the unique geographical formation that spans from South Dakota to Alberta in Canada. We've not been to this park, but we have been to its equivalent in Alberta, and the entire area is beautiful. These formations were created by erosion, where basically the prairies were peeled back to reveal all the different layers of history dating back 75 million years to the age of the dinosaurs. Which means, in addition to amazing places for your Instagram photos, there are also legitimate fossils from when this was like the dinosaur Garden of Eden.
Moving to the Pacific Northwest, don't miss Crater Lake National Park. easily one of the most impressive national parks on this list. The epicenter of the park is Crater Lake, a collapsed volcanic caldera which forms America's deepest lake with water so blue you have to see it to believe it.
All of the Pacific Northwest is super beautiful, but in Washington State, we're narrowing it down to two really great parks, Olympic and the North Cascades. But which to choose? Choose Olympic National Park if you're looking for geographical diversity. You got everything from the Pacific coast, where you'll see big beaches full of driftwood, up to snow-capped alpine peaks, and even a temperate rainforest, all within one park.
By contrast, North Cascades has some of the best backcountry backpacking in the States. Pure, undeveloped wilderness of mountains, forests, and glaciers.
If you're going down Mexico way in Texas, check out Big Bend National Park, which has some of the best preserved Chihuahuan Desert in the United States. It's right up against the border with Mexico. It goes right along the Rio Grande River. It contains natural hot springs, ancient pictographs that's now been taken over by wildlife.
Also in the Chihuahuan Desert in nearby New Mexico are the CARLSBAD Caverns, over 100 caves full of incredible limestone stalactite and stalagmite formations. Or if you're closer to Kentucky, you could check out the Mammoth Caves National Park with over 400 miles of caves to explore.
Pretty mammoth.
It's pretty mammoth. It's actually the world's largest cave system.
Now, generally speaking, the southwest of the United States is where you're gonna find some of the most beautiful scenery in the whole country, especially around the Four Corners area, which is the border between Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona.
First up, Arches National Park in Utah. Arches has the world's largest concentration of sandstone arches, over 2,000 of them, resulting from the salt left over from a 300 million year old sea. Also, this is where Devin Supertramp filmed that crazy rope swing video.
It's just north of Moab, Utah, which is the birthplace of slick rock mountain biking, and it's close to another great park called Canyonlands. Canyonlands is all about dramatic, colorful landscapes carved by the Colorado River. It's possible to drive, canoe, bike, or hike in some seriously remote wilderness.
Next up, you have Ion
Like a lion.
in Zion National Park, famous for its slot canyons and its pinkish red sandstone that make it one of the most picturesque national parks in the Southwest.
Of course, we can't forget the granddaddy of national parks, Grand Canyon, which is over a mile deep and is so wide that at no point can you see it in its entirety. The views are incredible, especially from Horseshoe Bend, where you gotta take that obligatory selfie. But if you really want a full experience, see it up close by hiking down. You can stay at Phantom Ranch at the bottom, or if you're really doing something cool, you could canoe or raft the Colorado River, which would be excellent.
A less crowded version of the Grand Canyon is the Black Canyon at Gunnison National Park, which is insanely steep, gorgeous, and receives less than 200,000 visitors a year.
Also in Colorado is Rocky Mountain National Park, which is within day trip distance from Denver and is the single best place to experience America's best mountain range. Other parks on this list are also in the Rockies, Glacier, among others, but none are as high as Rocky Mountain National Park. It's famous for its 13ers, or mountains over 13,000 feet or 4,000 meters. If you're ambitious, hike up the 14,000 foot Longs Peak, but you can also do a car ride, see them from a distance, easier, better photos. It's kind of probably what I would do.
One of the most rewarding experiences in the Southwest is learning more about the Native American cultures that have long called this part of the United States home. And one of the best places to do that is at the CHACO Culture National Park, the ancestral home of the Hopi and Pueblo people, with a wide variety of historical sites. It's also a dark sky park, which is perfect for astrophotography and for getting a good glimpse of the stars behind the local legends.
And last but certainly not least is Mesa Verde. This is one of the most beautiful and fascinating places in the entire national park system. It's the ancestral homeland of the Pueblo tribe, basically houses that they built into the cliff face, over 700 years old. You can take a tour of all the houses, even go into some, and it's a great place to visit any time of year. But when we were kids, we went there in the winter time when the snow was falling over the whole area, making it look just beautiful. It goes to show you why preserving places like this and all the national parks we mentioned is so important to preserving America.
So thank you all for watching, and thank you all for supporting the national park system. If you've enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you have not already, make sure you subscribe and enable notifications for our channel.
If you visit these beautiful places, please leave them cleaner than you found it. Be a good custodian, do not go off the paths, pick up trash, and generally treat these places like they are your home, because for all of us, they are.
Pack it in and pack it out.
And if you feel very generous, you can support the National Parks Charitable Fund. We'll leave a link in the info box. I'm sure they would appreciate your contribution.
As always, stay curious, keep exploring, and we will see you guys on the road or on the trail.
Hopefully somewhere out in the great outdoors.
Peace.